Okay, welcome to part two of the Max Ritvo. So one of the things we want to start with here is thinking about, as I said in the first one, which if you haven't watched, please do so, is trying to follow up on how all of these things can work together. So how we can follow arguments, how we can develop research based on those arguments, how that is tied into close reading, and then let me just make sure, and how, yeah, and then like how this looks at anti-bib and topic proposal. Kinds of things. So we'll try to cover again a number of these in one video for 10 minutes, and then we'll see what happens. So in the last one, we're talking a lot about, pardon me, a lot about the, what is this poem as a kind of carpe diem, seize the day of living it up, and how is this being carried through, and is this being carried through? It's written in couplets except for the first line, which is a single line, which doesn't really have a word, I don't think, maybe a monoline, but that's from The Simpsons. Sorry, that's random. So, okay, so we're gonna keep looking at this poem together and see what we can find. I'm gonna look at imagery. And I'm just gonna walk my way through the poem a little bit because I think in this case, in all honesty, Max Ritvo, I know his work, but I haven't done extensive work with him. So I'm gonna kind of walk my way through it. I might focus on image and line, but there's a good chance I'm going to focus on different things, and I just want to keep a running tally of what these things are. So the poem opens with the bed is on fire, and so briefly, let's talk about imagery real quick. Let's remember this one. And are you laughing? Oh, spilled something. Sorry. Hold on. Okay. All right. Let's try it again. Sorry. So we're opening with imagery. So with the first image we have is the bed, okay? And the bed is in and of itself, if we think about it as an image carries meaning, right? And I think this is a good one to work with on your own time, which is to write down the word bed and then to write down what you associate with that, and see, where that puts you in terms of the emotional space of the poem, right? So for me, when I'm writing down the word bed, I'm going to write down the word domestic because it's just home to me. That's what that means. Which isn't to say there aren't beds in other places, but this is, I think, when I think of the bed, and that's what that reminds me of. And it's not just a bed, any bed. It's the bed. And if I think of the image of the bed, right, the bed, I think of one that's very specific to me. Yeah, that's how I read that one. That may not be exactly perfect. That might be kind of a weak, close reading, but there's a space in there that I think makes sense. The bed, it's domestic, it's home, it's safe, right? And then are you laughing? So the bed is on fire. So we think about this very quickly, if that's literal or not. I think that's the first question we have to ask. Is this literal? It certainly doesn't have to be. If it does, this is a poem about emergency, right? And like, how do we put out this fire? That's a very literal reading. How do we put out this fire because the house will burn down? Okay. But then on the more metaphorical side, what could that mean? What could that represent? Could it represent a fire on top of a bed? Yes, indeed. It could just be that very literal thing. But it could also mean, thinking about this, think about what does it mean to burn, burn the place where you share your life with a you, right? That second person, which becomes immediately important, right? The bed is on fire, and are you laughing? So we start with this image of like danger, definite, if anything, a lack of safety. Is it metaphorical? Is it like the conflagration of domesticity? Is it like supposed to represent a very toxic, intimacy? I would think toxic intimacy, which that may not actually, that doesn't really sound good, but there's something in that maybe I can move into more of an argument here in a little bit. So the bed is on fire. We're in present tense. Okay, so it's tense interesting, but the bread is on fire. The bed is on fire, and now it turns it. So we start with a statement. There's a very simple statement, right? This is like a old school sentence where you learn this very early on, subject, verb, and then we have the direct object. The bed is on fire, or description. The bed is on fire, and are you laughing? And then there's a total switch to the end. So we completely subvert our expectations of what the sentence is doing. It incorporates a second character, and it gives a second character. We have an image for the second character, which is laughing. But interestingly enough, so now I'm at laughing. So notice, if you notice the progression of my imagery right now, I have bed, fire, you, laughing. Which, if you just, I don't know, that's like, I'm gonna use the word exciting, but I think what I mean to say, it's unpredictable. Like I don't really know that pattern. Bed, fire, you, laughing. And then of course we have the question that ends this. And so I definitely feel that my expectations are being subverted. I wasn't prepared for that at the beginning of this one. So that's great. That's like an interesting way to understand this guy's work. He's trying to surprise us. He's going to give us something that we're very familiar with, though we are familiar with all those individual images and moves. Now, the bed is on fire and are you laughing? The reason I think that this works as an image is we start with this surprising image of destruction. We turn it into a question, but the question is one of what the other character does and is doing in the moment, and that is, are you laughing? So if we think about why they would laugh to the bed is on fire, there's no I mean, there's a lot of different maybe scenarios that become maybe sweet in some way. Like maybe that's a romantic comedy scene. Depends on maybe the size of the fire to some degree, but also it's very specifically not doing anything about the fire. Right? It's in no way trying to help the fire either. Well, I mean, maybe it's trying to help the fire in terms of like making it bigger, but it certainly doesn't in any way help extinguish the fire. So that's an interesting way to understand the relationship, right? That's not really helpful at this point. And also, the speaker doesn't seem to be doing anything about the fire either. He's just curious about, is this person over here laughing or not? So there suggests kind of like a distance there, right? Like, why doesn't he know whether or not that person is laughing? Why is that a question at all? Why is this person laughing at this particular thing? And then, of course, why is the bed on fire? So it's a poem that's fundamentally saying, to us, to the reader, which is like, I'm going to suspend the why. I'm not going to tell you what this is, just trying to get us, as we try to get a sense of it. So he's, I think, operating under this idea of there is no exact phrase he's going to tell us. He's not going to give us exactly what we're supposed to know, though he will in some ways, I think, be pretty plain spoken. And the images that he wants to give us are about surprises and making sure that we feel a kind of distance between our characters right now. And this is all Carpe Diem poem. So he's unsettling us. And I think there's a good, interesting argument. And sorry, a lot of this is just me coming up with it as I go. So it's a little bit muddy, but so it's unsettling as a Carpe Diem poem. And I think that's interesting. That's a research place for me. I think it belongs on this side. Research place for me is how does being unsettled help us arrive at a new kind of understanding, right? So I guess what I mean by that is like when you find yourself in a position of being uncomfortable, I guess, or to feel like you're not in your comfort zone anymore, I think you become, I think there's research on this, I wonder, right, is that this hyper awareness of your reality in that moment. Like all of a sudden you feel much more, your sensory experience is much more immediate. You are aware of how time is passing. It's going very slowly. You're trying to be, cognizant of many moving parts. And I think when we're unsettled, right, we have a tendency to pay more attention. So that's a great way to think about a Carpe Diem poem. And I have a research component now, like the ones I did in the other videos, that maybe I can get something out of. And the other thing about research that I think is hard to really express clearly is it's really, again, it's just sitting down going through things. Maybe this idea works with a Carpe Diem or wherever Carpe Diem is, maybe not. I don't know. But I don't know until I do the work. And that's what the point of the research paper is to just do the work. So that's a lot of information. That's 20 minutes out of the first line of this poem, the title and the line. And that's okay. I don't mind that. I'm gonna definitely do a couple more so you can get a sense of if this carries through with these questions. But this is what it is. It's sitting down in front of it, talking my way through it, looking for what I can write down, see where patterns develop and where I get interest in a different space, and I can start thinking about how to incorporate new information into the poem to better understand it. You may have a completely different read of these poems. That's great. Just make sure that you keep the language of the poem as your defense, right? We don't want to come just back to a place of assumption. We want to be able to prove this in some way with the language on the page, with the understanding that there's still going to be some flexibility within that argument. so that other people can come in and intelligently disagree with me. So I'm going to end this one here for the second part of this one, where we really didn't cover much except for opening up new areas of research. And then I'll go through the poem after this a little bit more quickly and make sure that there's something else you can gain from it. Okay. All right. See you on one.